Yep, I'm doing the dreaded rod and reel arsenal video. I did go out fishing this last weekend, guys. Saturday I went out to Portland, Oregon. It's about 3 hours north of me, and was able to get my son on a sturgeon fish. I'll show you a quick picture of that. If you're interested in watching the video of my son's catch, you can go to his YouTube channel. It's Keep It Bent Jr., and we have the full video of his sturgeon catch. Unfortunately, on that day it was pretty cold, and I think he lasted, we might have been there 2 or 3 hours. It took us a while to get on a good spot due to the heavy traffic that was out there. And it was pretty much right after he caught his fish, within 20 to 30 minutes, he started saying he wanted to leave. But I'm glad I was at least able to get him on one. If I caught one and he didn't, you know, it could have been devastating on him. I actually wanted to continue to fish. So I'm definitely glad he was able to get on one. Let's see, Sunday I went out and fished with a new friend I met up with. I actually met him maybe a month or two before I moved here, and only just recently got to meet up with him. He's got a new boat, or at least it's recently been fixed up and ready, and we went out to Bend Irving, which is one of the local bodies of water here. The water temps are getting warmer. It was in the low 40s. I want to say he was stating 41 to 44 degree water temp, but the water clarity was horrible. If you're not familiar with the Pacific Northwest, it rains here a lot. I think water clarity was like 6 to 8 inches, and we had no luck whatsoever there. I do have plans for this upcoming weekend. I have Saturday, I'll be going to the Eugene, that's Eugene, Oregon's Boat and Sportsman Show. Sunday, I plan on trying to get down to Galesville, despite the horrible weather it's stating they're going to have. Right now it's stating lows of 36, highs of 45, with wind up to 5 to 10 miles an hour at an 80% chance of rain, with rain from here till then, and also a chance of snow that evening. So don't necessarily think I'll have a video to post on it, but I am still new to Oregon and just learning the waters, you know, trying to find all the subsurface structures, fish locations when I can either find them on the fish finder or actually catch them. It's a big process of elimination to learn these bodies of water here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this rod and arsenal video. Let's see, we'll start with my lighter setups, then I'll work over throughout all of them. This one here is my 7-foot medium Abu Garcia Veritas 2.0. Pretty much every rod here is Veritas 2.0. I have it paired up with the Abu Garcia Silver Max. I'm a huge fan of the budget reels on Abu Garcia within all the Max series, and I've not really found much issues with them, so I just stuck with them. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing an Ardent Reels sweatshirt on. I did recently get picked up by them about a week or two ago, and one of the first reels I'll be picking up is the Apex Grand. I'll be probably getting that in a 6.5 to 1, and at least last year in the south, I fished a lot of shallow waters. Maybe the deepest I would fish would be like 20 feet, and the 7-foot medium was the rod I used the most outside of when I was frogging. But I'll probably put it on this one unless I'm finding I'm using one of my medium heavies more, just to get that deeper depth for those little bit heavier weight lures. Then I'll probably switch out that new reel to one of those setups. I like to fish mine with 20-pound Power Pro braid, and then depending on what I'm throwing and what the conditions are out on the water, I'll switch up my leaders. It's usually nothing more than fluorocarbon. I rarely throw any top water on this rod, and I'll switch out with a vicious 17 or 12-pound fluorocarbon depending on conditions and what lure I'm throwing. Moving on to the next rod is my spinning reel setup. So I recently actually switched this rod out from a Shimano Celis to this Abu Garcia Veritas 2.0. Pretty much I'll throw all my really lightweight plastics and really lightweight crankbaits or hard baits. Currently just have a drop shot set up on here right now. I currently have it comboed up with a Lew's spinning reel. I actually got it off of some combo setup. I can't remember what it was, from Walmart. I picked up like 2 of them for my kids, and both of those rods broke, but the reels have been pretty decent. I'll probably be switching that out in the future with an Ardent reel setup, just so I can kind of upgrade it. As far as line on this one, I have 8-pound vicious fluorocarbon. So this one here, I never considered it one of my bass rods. But if you haven't noticed, I haven't been posting many fishing videos lately. I'm still getting used to this northern winters. It's definitely been anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees cooler than what what I'm used to fishing in. So this one here is my Daiwa Tatula. It's a 7-something. It's a 7'1" medium light. I'm probably going to start breaking this out and start bringing out more spinning reels and start working the finesse to see for the remainder of this winter and future winters to help increase my opportunity of actually hooking up with the bass. Right now I have, man, this was just my panfish rod. I use this primarily for crappie, bluegills, stuff like that down in the south. I'll probably not only be using it for bass up here in finesse situations, cold water temperatures, but I'll probably also be using this one for trout as well. Right now, man, this reel is probably, I can't remember what I paid for it. It could have been actually under $10, but it worked great for panfish. This will be one of the second reels I upgrade through Ardent, and I'm going to pick up Ardent's Finesse spinning reel, probably in a 2000 model, and that'll be going on this one, and hopefully before the winter's over, I'll have that paired up with this Daiwa rod and start working this one out there as well. Moving over to some of my heavier setups. This is the Abu Garcia's Veracity rod. It's a 6'6" medium heavy. It's got the really nice micro guides on it as well for, you know, accuracy, casting distance, sensitivity, and stuff like that. I actually was about to sell this rod at one point because I started getting more interested into the 7-foot length rods, but I decided to keep it. I found that not only do I kayak fish, but I also bank fish. And there's been instances where when I'm bank fishing, a 6'6" was just more practicable due to, you know, low-hanging trees, you know, maneuvering through bushes and whatnot just to get to the bank to be able to fish them. I do still take it out on the kayak as well on occasion, and usually I'll have some sort of like a jigging spoon on there or something, and I'll just use it for vertically trying to work the bass. Currently right now I have on there a rooster tail. I've been attempting to actually do some trout, steelheads, fishing like that and stuff here on the rivers, but this is a rod I will also use for bass fishing. Let's see, moving on to my next one. This one here is a 7-foot medium heavy, and I forgot to mention the Veracity. I just have an Abu Garcia Black Max, and that one's 17-pound vicious fluorocarbon on a full spool of that. So this one here is a 7-foot medium heavy. I have 2 medium heavy rods. This one here, 7 foot, and the next one I'll get into, but my medium heavies are kind of like the do-all setups. Just throw miscellaneous stuff. As you can see, I have a spinner bait on here due to the possible conditions for next week. I'm just picturing it, you know, obviously windy and muddy. So that's why I got this particular spinner bait on now. Hopefully I'll be just slow reeling it and possibly, you know, search out and locate some bass. But this is a do-all rod for me. Spinner baits, jigs, heavier weighted Texas rigs, just miscellaneous setups I'll put on here. I have it paired up with an Abu Garcia Silver Max with a 20-pound Power Pro braid. And then, like I mentioned earlier on one of the other rods with the actual leaders, I'll vary it out depending on water conditions and type of lure I put on there, with either a 17-pound vicious fluoro leader or down to a 12-pound vicious fluorocarbon leader. So this next one here is an Abu Garcia Veritas 2.0 as well. It's a 7'3" medium heavy. Like I just mentioned, it's one of my like do-all rods. Just throw miscellaneous of everything. I've also thrown some of my smaller swim baits on here as well. Savage Gear 3D Glide, stuff like that, and some of the smaller plastic swim baits, the Osprey 4-inch and things like that. You can see here I have a jig tied on. But I have it paired up with an Abu Garcia Pro Max. This particular reel was actually on my 7'9" heavy rod, and you know the line on it is still good, and I didn't want to waste it or anything. So currently it actually has 50-pound braid on it because I was using it for my punching setup and just an extra rod for frogging. And then right now with the jig I tied on some vicious fluorocarbon and 17-pound line. Moving on to the next one. Let's see what we got here. The next one I have, this one here is a 7-foot heavy Veritas 2.0. If you haven't figured it out yet, I like the Veritas 2.0 rods. Despite all the negative reviews, I've had 0 issues with them. This one here is pretty much, I pretty much don't throw anything but hollow belly actual lures. If you were following me last year, this was my primary rod for throwing hollow belly frogs down there in Louisiana. Right now I just have a tied on a live target bluegill, but it's a nice frog for frogging. Even though Veritas has their own frogging rod, I just got this 7-foot heavy one and it works perfect. Last year I originally had a Silvermax reel tied on. It worked fine for the actual frogging. It's only a 6:4 to 1 gear ratio, and everyone will tell you, not everyone, but most people will tell you a high gear ratio is best for that type of actual application. But I did actually upgrade to a faster speed reel, and now I have the Abu Garcia Revo STX on there, 7:1 to 1 reel. Yeah, and I do definitely like the higher gear ratio. You know, to get them up and out of that slop quicker, to reel in the slack, and you know, to get that quick, good, instant hook set. I do like that faster gear ratio. This here reel is actually my first reel I ever bought that was over $100. Like I've been mentioning, the Max Series reels are all like $100 and less, and I've had no issues with using them. It hasn't affected my success, so you know, I do want to upgrade in the future, and I think I'm going to utilize Ardent to do so with my reels. So my next rod here is my cranking setup. I wasn't always an Abu Garcia fan. I kind of jumped around with Quantum, Shimano, Luz, maybe a few others. And I picked up this Quantum rod actually at Walmart. It's the Quantum Tour KBD. It's like a 710, I believe. 710 medium heavy cranking rod. And pretty much all my build crankbaits I'll throw on this particular rod here. I have it actually paired up with a Abu Garcia Aura Wench with a low gear ratio of like 5:4 to 1, I believe. And yep, and then paired up with Vicious 12-pound fluorocarbon. I've thrown anywhere from 1.5 square bills on this setup all the way up to striking 6XDs, and this combo here has worked flawless for me. As far as bass fishing setups go, this one here is my last one. This one here is a 7'9" Abu Garcia Veritas 2.0. Originally purchased for punching, and then also as a backup rod for throwing hollow belly frogs, just in like kind of open conditions, like let's say lily pads. But as soon as I got into swim baits, I switched out the reel from that Pro Max, and I picked up recently the Abu Garcia's new Max Toro reel, which is basically a larger spool, higher drag, deeper gear ratio for slow rolling big heavy lures. So as you can see on there right now, I have a 6-inch HUD tied on. So I've been throwing my 6-inch HUDs and the 68 HUD on this setup, and I've had no issues whatsoever. I've yet to catch a swim bait fish on it, so I can't really talk about the action, how successful it'll be there. But I cannot count the amount of big bass I've caught on this rod with a different reel, with hollow belly frogs and like Stanley's top-toed frogs, and it's definitely a nice setup. But kind of try to speed through this just so it's not a long, lengthy, boring video, which rod and reel arsenals are kind of, in my opinion, can be boring. But this covers my rod and reel arsenal. This will be what I'll be using for 2017. You will slowly see me start adding Ardent reels to most of these rods here. I look forward to hopefully catching some bass this weekend so I can start posting some actual fish catching videos again soon. Alright guys, thank you and take care.